everyone, it is your TA Nicole, and I'm going to be teaching you how to use After Effects using the text tool. So as soon as you've opened After Effects, and just a quick apology, I'm using my PC from home, so the screen might not be the exact same as what you have, but close enough. So what you're going to do is you're going to open up After Effects, and this little window is going to come up, Welcome to Adobe After Effects, and it's going to have any recent projects that you have done. You know, keep up with some good naming filing systems, guys. We're just going to go to New Composition, or if we're using other programs, we can go Browse and Bridge, or Open Past Projects, or get help and support. But we're going to go New. This is going to bring up a basic window. We're going to use our good naming skills, and we're going to name our file Haiku, followed by probably your last name. So when this initially popped up for me, it came up with like a frame rate of 59.9 whatever seconds, which is obviously too high, so you can go down to 24 or 29 or 30, or you know, whatever you feel comfortable using. 24 is fine with me. And it's going to ask what your resolution is. So what After Effects does is it's going to show you resolution on the screen, which is not the true resolution. So half is a good starting point, and all that does is it's going to save space when it's trying to render your files, which has high graphics going on, and it might be a little bit much for your computer to handle at a given time. So it just lowers the resolution on the screen that you're looking, not the resolution of your actual project. So we'll say half. And then your time code, which you can pay attention to during actual projects, but for now anything will do. Mine's currently set to 3 minutes, and that seems like a good amount of time, if not less. So just hit OK. And this is what your project looks at. Now, if you had to create a new composition from scratch, you can do so either by right-clicking and going New Composition, or by clicking down here and saying New Composition. To delete things, just click on them and hit Delete on your keyboard, or click and drag and drop down to the box. So this is what a screen looks like. This is your project window. Your compositions are essentially your sequences, and your window where you will create things, and your timeline and your visual screen. Now, I've already done this, but you can change your workspace. So as we have discussed, this is going to be a text project, so it would just be a good idea to change your workspace and make it a text workspace. This will just pull up the menus that we will most likely be using throughout the tutorial, and making them handy for you to use. So, how to get started using the text tool in After Effects. One, you can use the text tool by hitting Control T or Command T if you're on a Mac, and that'll bring up the text tool, in which case you can just put in some text. The other thing you could do is go up here, and there's a text tool for you. I don't want the same text, I don't want the same color. Now, instead of me having to go back up all the time to this bar to click the selection tool, I'm just going to push V, and instead of constantly clicking on to create new text, I'm just going to hit Control T. So I'm just going to memorize these shortcuts because these are the two tools that I'm going to be using most often. Okay, so you can change your text simply by selecting it. And you'll notice that as you select the text, it's selecting between the different layers that you've already composed on your composition area. So clicking Text 1, which was the first text I've made, brings me down to the very bottom text layer. Text 2 in the middle, and then my Like So layer, which is labeled Like So, is at the top. But that means that if I move Text 1 around, it's actually going to be behind Text 2. So if you need Text 1 to be on top, you're going to have to move it manually. To move anything within your composition layer-wise, you have to move your source layer. So you can't click anywhere else but on the source name, and clicking the source name, you can move it up. Nowhere else that you click will let you shift things around. So just keep in mind, if you're layering, click on the source text and then move it up and in place. however you wish, into whatever order. You'll notice too that as I move the orders, the document automatically relabels them into the order that they are. I like so to be after. Moving text is very simple. You can move it around the screen manually. Once you've selected a text, or hold shift down to select multiple texts, you can change things. You can change things about increase text size, lower text size, make them bold, italics, make them caps, you know, whatever you want to do, combine effects. Change the color. Ooh. Okay. Now just a quick note to what I was saying about the resolution of what you were viewing earlier. You'll notice that right here in this panel, this little half thing. So if you go to full, this is you at full scale. Actually, I'll zoom in by scrolling using the third button on the mouse, or by Control or Command plus or minus on my keyboard. So you can see that the text is when at 100% fairly nice. But if you go down to a quarter, you're going to notice this rasterization that's happening. Now this rasterization did not actually happen to your document or your file. It's just that the program is trying to save space by not having to constantly render your animation all the time. So we'll just stick at half for now, which is good. We can still see the quality, even if it is a little pixelated. We don't notice it. So one thing I do like to do is keep my window at fit up to 100%, and that'll just keep the window nice and big for you while you're going through and playing with things. So once you have your text, and I'm just going to make this one a different color because that's easier. I don't know why, but my anchor point's in the it's down in this corner. So I'm just going to go into my transform options, which is this drop down arrow down here, and my anchor point is here. So I'm just going to move my anchor point back into the middle by clicking with these numbers. There we go. So I can rotate my text, flip my text, turn it upside down. What I would like to say is you should, hold down shift and keep the proportions of your text at any given time. But I can rotate my text, turn it about, and basically transform it on a whim without having to go into like a transform area. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at using the transform functions. So there are 5 happening down here, and we're going to start off with scale. So now we're going to transform our text using the transform window, which is found just underneath your selected text, which you can select either in your composition window or by on screen. Selecting one will do the same in each window. When you transform text, you use the stopwatches in order to complete animations. So you have to tell the computer when an animation is going to start and when it's going to end by putting in different figures where a change occurs that'll happen over time. So to start the stopwatch and to start our timed animation, we will just click this button, and we'll do that with scale. And it also has 2 number sets associated with the function. So it's plopped in this little node here, and you'll notice that there's an option to drop. It's a node button here. So when you move your cursor in the timeline, you can plop down another node. If you just click it from this option, these numbers don't change. So you'll have to go in and make the change simply by clicking and dragging or inputting a specific number and hitting enter. Now obviously this is linked because we do like to keep things within proportion, but if there's a need to not have it linked, you can simply unclick the linked button and then you can play with things individually. So another way to put in your time nodes is simply to change your numbers. Now, if you change your numbers, no matter where you are, a new node is going to drop down. So as soon as you touch the numbers, a node will drop in. Just be aware of that if you accidentally hit something. And then, of course, you can delete nodes by clicking delete on your keyboard. So now we have an animation, and it is occurring between 1,300 and 4% to 400% of what that text is. Keep in mind that when you change the scale of something like text, you're not changing the text size. So the text size remains 172, even though it's now at 400%. Next, we're going to look at opacity, which is also fairly common. So to switch between your nodes and have it snap to the guide, simply hold down Shift on your keyboard whilst dragging the slider, and your slider will shift automatically to the two nodes. So when you're doing timing, it'll be very simple to hold down Shift, click here, let go, click a new stopwatch. In this case, I'm going to have my text fade on, so I'm going to put my opacity at 0, and then once it goes to the full size, I want it to be at 100. And my animation now looks something like this. Now, I'm going to look at position, because when my text is this small, it's great, but as soon as it's this big, it's going off of the screen, and I do not want it to do that. So I'm just going to snap back, holding down Shift, and click my position stopwatch, and then when it gets to a point, I'm going to say here, I'm just going to shift the position. So this is horizontal, and this is vertical. So I'm just going to move my text up. Now you'll notice that when you shift position, a little red bar is going to appear on the screen. That's just showing you where your animation is moving from and towards. It's giving you a visual path. So another thing you can do when you're moving position is to click it on the screen and shift. So now our animation looks like this. We're going to look at the rotate tool. So I'm going to start my rotation when my text reaches this point and it starts to turn. I'm going to put the timer on, and it's going to have a number times the number. So this number is 360 degrees. And once you reach 360 degrees, you get a times 1, or a times 2, or a times 3. So that's just saying how many times do you want this text to reach 360 degrees. Now, the flaw that I did was I didn't set a node at the beginning, so it's not changing between two numbers. It's just existing at 162%, which is why it's upside down. So before that node, I'll put a new one in, and it's going to be at 0 and 0. Now I'm back to normal. Now it's going to rotate. So obviously when you're playing with time, if you give something a very short distance, that's going to define speed between the two nodes. So if I give it a longer birth, the text will move slower, because I've told it between this time and this time, rotate this amount of times. So the speed is in direct relation to the proximity. Okay. And finally, we're going to look at the anchor point transformation. So the anchor point, let's see if I can over here. So the anchor point is actually this little crosshair happening here, and it's occurring at the bottom left-hand corner of this rectangle shape. Now the rectangle shape is the entire height and width of your text at its max requirements. So you can move your crosshair, and that's going to be where your transformation is going to occur. So for instance, if I move my crosshair to the middle of the text, instead of rotating around this point at the corner of the T, the text will rotate from the middle. So just as an example, I will move my width and my height with no nodes to indicate that that shift is going to happen over time. It's just going to occur naturally in the middle for the whole duration of the animation. And now that you see that since the anchor point has moved, so it has where the animation takes place. Now I happen to like it rotating on the, so I'm just going to undo, which is Control or Command Z. I happen to like it rotating in this corner bit and how it went off screen. But once it goes halfway through my rotation, I think I'm going to move the anchor point and add a bit of movement to that. So I'm just going to shimmy the text down that way. Mid-animation. Except I didn't put down an anchor point first and then my movement, so and if you look here, I've accidentally created 2 nodes. That's because when I moved my marker back over top of my previous one, I wasn't on it 100%. I was just vaguely skewed to the side. So you can zoom into your timeline here by clicking plus or minus, and that'll let you get closer. So I'm going to delete my extra node there. Shift click to land. Oh, and here's another thing. So I've got 3 nodes precariously placed one over the other, but they're not lined up. So when I'm shift clicking, it's actually lined up to the bottom one. Shift. And then this one's on to the second one. And it just took me a bit of an effort to find my center node, which is why I ended up with the issue before I had clicked on this one. So maybe I'll just make it a little bit drastic. Now when it rotates, it's like a planet orbiting the sun. So that's kind of cool. Except it's off screen. So the next thing I'm going to do is look at text animation. What we've done so far is just transformed our text object using different scales and opacity over time, which is great. We can certainly fool the eye into thinking that's animation, but there's also an animate button associated with your text. So let's look at text. And I'm just going to hide my text to animation so that it's not going to be occurring while I'm teaching you this new thing. And I'm just going to hide my like so because it is currently in the way. Animation, I'm just going to drag this, make it larger by adjusting the font, not the scale. Color's a little bit gaudy to me, so I'm just going to pick something vaguely more pleasing to the eye. And hit animate. Now we're going to start off with scale, because you'll be able to visually see the scale increasing and decreasing, and it'll be a good visual aid. So with scale, you'll notice that it also has a stopwatch, and you can make the scale go larger or smaller and the text will remain in place, and the text is increasing and decreasing in size from these X anchors at the bottom middle of each text. Now we can adjust where the text is being anchored from by going into more options. So within more options is an anchor point grouping setting. We can change it from character to word and to line. Let me just make this we can now see that when we click back on the anchor option that the X's are at each word now. So word, each letter, and finally line. So when it's a line, there's only one X per line space. So again, that would look something like there's the line growing, and there's the word growing. Now I'm going to leave that exactly as it had been and go back to our animator. For our animator, I'm actually not going to have an animation occurring within the scale range selector, although it is awfully like the scale function happening here, except that it's changing the scale based upon the anchor points versus a general growing and shrinking. But we're going to make that a 0 so that the scale actually, the letters don't exist on screen and it's going to grow from nothing. But before that, I want to talk about selecting ranges. So there is a range selector as part of your Animator 1 menu options. And you'll notice that it has a start and an end, as well as an offset stopwatch. So when you click on range selector, new things happen on the screen. In this case, it's 2 red lines at the beginning and at the end of our text. So when when you're telling the program to start from an area within your sentence, it's going to start from this red selector, and where that red selector is based upon where you want it to be. So if, for instance, you put it at 50%, halfway through your text is halfway through the word beginning. So this would actually be where the animation starts. Same for end. End is at 100, so this is 0% of the animation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 50, 75, 100%. And you can likewise go backwards, and the range selector will only go as far as this is the beginning and not animate and the end, depending on where you put it. And you can also offset your animation. So if I wanted it to say is the beginning and the end animates, I can just shift the text by offsetting where the two actually begin and end. So we're just going to set everything back to straights, and our animation is going to do the whole animation by starting at the beginning at 0% and ending at the end at 100%. I'm just going to erase my nodes, and I'm going to set my scale down to 0. And I'll just go down so you can see this is just the text getting smaller and smaller and smaller until they are no longer on the screen. Also, if you go on reverse, it just flipped it upside down. Okay, so when you start at the beginning, collect your stopwatch. Now, you're not doing a range selector all the way from the beginning all the way to the end. You're just going to be working within the start. So your text is going to start animating from 0, and you're going to make it go all the way to 100. From 0 to 100. So it's already going to end at 100, but the animation will start at 0 and reach 100. So in order for it to reach 100, move your cursor in time, and then move your percent up. So again, if you didn't want to animate the whole text, you can stop at a certain point or go all the way. So 0 to 100, something like this. By letter, starting at the anchor point at the bottom of the screen, this is the beginning and the end. So that's pretty good. That's an animation. We have some control over that. I could make my animation grow in time. So if I wanted to have the end start a little bit earlier, I could start the scale halfway through and it would look something like this. So it's going from nothing, it's going from nothing, it's growing from nothing, and now it's starting to grow the rest of the text earlier at 20%, and then this is the text at 50%. So that's also a bit more control you could have. I like it just coming out of nothing and existing in nothing. Oops. Delete those. Okay, so we've got range selectors down in our animation bars. We are now going to look at more advanced options with our text. And we're going to look at mostly two things happening within this menu. The first is based on. So what the advanced animation is asking us is, what is our advanced animation being based on? And it's being right now based on characters, but we can change that and say words. So now I left my scale at 50%, which is why it was all on the screen already. Put that back to 0. And now it's going to grow word by word. Simple. We're also going to look at based on lines. So now it's going to grow the first line and the second line. And I'm just going to direct you to smoothness, which indicates how smooth the animation is occurring. So if I said something like 0, you're going to notice it's going to be pretty much a typewriter effect. It's just going to harshly pop on the screen. This is the beginning and the end. Non-characters. Much like a typewriter. So that's a very simple way to get that effect if you're doing it manually and in control. Although I'm sure in the effects and presets panel there's probably something along the same lines. So now that we're in the advanced animator area, we're going to do some advanced animation that has to do with timing. So a common occurrence that happens with text is that we time the text up to something that somebody is saying, to an audio file. So I'm just going to quickly import an audio file, which I did by double-clicking within your project window. Double-click. I'm going to drag and drop my audio file into my composition. So dragging and dropping, and there it is. You'll notice that as an audio file it's doing something different than the visual files. It's got a sound box instead of an eye, just to indicate what type of file it is. It's no longer a text file, but an audio wave file. It gave it automatically a different color to help distinguish within the timeline that this is no longer the same type of animation. Now, and you can change these by clicking on them and selecting a different color, depending on what type of animation you're doing. Because my text is cyan, I think I'll just go cyan. Okay. Also, your timeline, like this is your entire image area. My audio file is only this big. And in After Effects, if you want to listen to audio, you can do it in one of two ways. On your number keypad to the right of your keyboard, you can push the space button or /delete button or the 0. Now our animation doesn't occur until somewhere over here, which we know by dropping down our menu and seeing that our nodes are on this side. So we can either move our animation left or our words right. Now, for the sake of showing you this, I'm going to move the audio right. So two things. Or these bars here are when your animation is visible to the person watching the clip. So if I move this bar off, you'll see that you no longer see your nodes. But here they are. So it's just a way to visualize your clip. So I can reduce the overall length if I wanted to have a visual say of how long this clip is. It would be about between here and here. And again, right now our animation is so simple that all it is two nodes within one space having letters grow on it. Now I'm just going to move my audio over so it's in the correct area, and then I'm going to time my words to pop up on the screen as I'm talking. I'm just going to zoom in using the minus and plus buttons on the keyboard. And I'm going to make my animation visible. And just because I want to see my audio file, I'm just going to put it at the top. Doesn't matter, it's an audio file, it's not the same type of file. So the order is just going to play at the same time. Okay. So I'm going to listen to my audio, and I'm going to place markers down in two ways. If I wanted to place a marker down on the entire field, I could drag a marker from over here and drop it into place, and then time my audio that way so that every time I say this marker will indicate this. This one will be is, this one will be the. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just delete all these markers, which I did by right-clicking on the marker menu, or I can delete them individually. And I'm just going to place the markers within my audio wave, specifically because I'm dealing with the audio wave. And if I move the audio wave around, I would like it if the markers moved with the audio file, because that's what they pertain to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to my audio file, just the audio file, not make the program render any of the visuals, by pushing the period button on the number pad. And then also in the number pad, I'm going to push the asterisk button, which is that little star looking button. I'm going to push period to listen to my audio, and then asterisk. So I was going a little bit too fast for me to really get a sense of what was happening, and you'll notice that I didn't see the nodes or the markers being dropped down until the audio was playing. So let's see how well I did with these ones. So probably this will be this. And so the asterisk, in order to place it down on your timeline specifically, if you don't have anything selected, it'll just put it up on the bar. But if you have your audio file selected, it'll put it on the audio file. So those are pretty close. I think the is about here. Yeah, so this is the Okay, so now those are all roughly within the space that I want my animation to occur in. And I'm going to start doing my advanced animation. So, where'd my nodes go? Oh, so I'm too zoomed in right now to see where my nodes are, so I'm just going to back out a bit. And they're way over there. And I'm just going to make my animation as long as my audio file. And I'm going to bring my nodes in so I can see them and work with them. And zoom back in by pushing the minus and plus key on the keyboard. And I'm going to start my animation. Now, keep in mind, if you hold down Shift and drag a cursor, you can snap to your markers as well. So I'm going to snap to the first one, have my animation start there, snap to the last one, have my animation end there. So at the beginning here, at the end here. And what I'm going to do is get control of the animation. So right now my characters are being, and I'm going to go with words because I'm just going to. So I'm going to choose words. You can do letters or words for this animation. It would be the same because you're calling upon it. And I'm going to change from percentage because I do not know between 0 and 100 when, like this might be 0, this might be 5, this might be 10, this could be 20, 60, I don't know. So, but to make it simple, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my units from percent to index. Now, in my final animation, you'll notice that I have 7 words. This is the beginning, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the end, 5, 6, 7. And down here in my range selector, I now have a range of 7. And you'll see that right now I'm at the 7th range, which is again the end, the 100%. And as I scroll through, the ranges go down. So what I'm going to do is realize that each word is what the range is referring to, and I know it's a word because my range selector is saying there's 7 ranges and there are 7 words, so each word can be a range. That is to say, if I want to call on each of the 7 ranges individually, each word individually, I can simply go in and indicate 1, and this will be the word this. If I indicated the range 4, it's now called upon the 4th range, which is the beginning. So if I want 2, I'll have is. If I put in 3, I can call on the word the. Now if I shift click, I notice that each time I added a range, a word pops up. This is the beginning. So I'm going to do that for all of them. So 4, 5, 6, and this last one's 47. And I'm going to call upon them at these points. So this will come on at 1. So I'm just going to move these back. And I'm going to snap click, holding down Shift, snap over to my next range, snap this node, holding Shift, to the line, snap over, snap, 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 and that's already in place. So now, and it's coming on fairly harshly. Our timeline for our project, which is what it would render at the end, is currently the entire 3 minutes that we have set the animation to. Ours is clearly not going to be 3 minutes, it's really short, so I'm just going to move my animation window here shorter, so when I export the video, I'd only be exporting this one section. It's coming on like a typewriter, and this is because my smoothness is all the way down. So if I want to see it come on quick and gradual, And again, it's doing the speed based upon how much space there is between the nodes. So if you didn't want and to start until it was being called on, we can take note that it still hasn't grown when it was at 4 and extend 4 at this point. So it's not going to start growing from 4 to 5 until here. And that's about right. And one last thing before I go, you could add more animations and make your text more complex by simply going to add another one. So opacity would be something good. And we will do the same thing we did with scale. Well, it will slowly come up on the screen. So now not only is our animation coming onto the screen, it's coming on from 0 to 100% as it reaches our critical point. So you could do that with a bunch of different effects and make each animation itself complex. Or if you're doing something and your animations aren't adding up together, they're starting to clash, and it's interfering with your overall objective, or you want 2 animations at one time, simply click on text again and add in your new animation. So now opacity is on animator number 2, and I can control this separately. If, however, you are on animator 1 and you add a new animation, it's just going to add that animation as if you had pushed the add button to animator 1. So if you're having trouble getting new animators up, it's because you're still working within your first animator, and you'll just want to select your text and it'll start a new animation. So that's about it for this tutorial. I feel like you guys have learned lots. Try that again. And that's it for this tutorial. I hope you guys got a lot from it and that your experiences within After Effects will take you far. Please explore this program further. I do highly recommend looking at this program not just for text, but for 3D animations, green screen, some video effects, etc. You will be able to use this program as well. And just keep in mind, anything that you do is editable after the fact. So even though your animations got certain parameters, it's just going to take in whatever changes and automatically add it to the code that you are using or that you've told the program to use when it's designing your animation for you. So feel free to have complete control of whatever you're doing, make something nice, and have fun. This is the beginning and the end.